All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to More Content Talk. That's the only show that cuts through all the glam, the glitz, and all the bullshit to bring you the truthiest news that we can find. And, hi, Melissa.
Hello.
Hi. So, um, in the wake of the fact that, we had 4,000 over 4,000 more COVID deaths today. I thought I'd spend a little bit of time talking at least about subject matter that relates to that. It's not necessarily going to be about that the whole time, but so the reality, I believe, is that by February, from the doctor that I follow, who's usually pretty correct, his name's I don't want to pronounce his name. I don't know how to spell it. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm not even going to do it. It would just be insulting, because it would be wrong. It looks like it's going to be about 5,000 by February. So, like a day. So, it's worth analyzing, what gets it to that point. And I think the knee-jerk response is to just say, well, it's because people are stupid. And I think that's justifiable. I think that people who tend to I think people tend to give a lot, too much credit to humans, as being like a really intelligent being. I kind of talked about that with you a little bit earlier about how when you get into, human nature, and when you start to try to separate it from animal nature, what you'll find is that becomes more and more difficult as you start to look at animals that have, similar kind of brain structures to humans, whether it be dogs or dolphins or whatever it is. And in terms of being superior, or being some sort of superior being, I think that what things like plagues and pandemics and epidemics demonstrate very clearly is that it's absolutely not true. There's no superiority when it comes to human beings. It's just that you happen to be a human, and so you prefer that story. And I think it's a fine story to live by when there's not, something like COVID-19. But once that comes around, I think it becomes more and more dangerous. And I'm going to be talking about that and more a little bit tonight. We kind of covered it in this episode that I just actually I'm going to be putting up on YouTube tonight, called Magical Thinking. I wanted to go into a little bit more depth there, and I wanted to talk about kind of how do people fall for this stuff? Is it just stupidity, or is it much more about culture and much more about what's the people around you accept?
I think it's denial and fear.
You can elaborate on that if you want. Here, on my
That
tongue.
people are afraid, and so they're in denial. They would rather be ignorant and assume or think that everything is okay because the alternative is too frightening.
What do you mean by frightening? Like, just it takes you out of your own worldview, or what?
Yeah. Like the fact that there's this virus that could kill you. Like, that's scary. And people, instead of believing that, they'd rather be ignorant because they're afraid of the truth.
There certainly is a level of denialism, science denialism, and that's always been around in most cultures. It has a particular influx in the West in recent years, and I read it. I have an article that I'd like to read to all of you to kind of delve further into that and what it might mean, because as I so often say, when you look down through history, what you'll find is that it's almost as if it's been scripted for you, and you can kind of fill in the dots. So this article is called Strange Enthusiasms, A Brief History of American Pseudoscience. And it's by Robert McDougall, who's actually pretty well known. This isn't some random person who wrote this article. This is a pretty well-respected social scientist. I read McDougall when I was in college, for example. So let's get into it. So it's worth remembering that theories we might scoff at today were once embraced by Americans from all walks of life. Phrenology, the divining of personality by reading the contours of the cranium, had very respectable followers, says Rothman. Such worthy skulls as Andrew Carnegie's, Thomas Edison's, and Walt Whitman's were I don't even know how to pronounce it because it's not a real word, or it's not a real thing. Phrenologically surveyed. Whitman's flattering head reading was central to his self-portrait in Leaves of Grass. Okay, so I'm going to be stopping periodically and just kind of analyzing. So in case you missed it, phrenology is the science, quote unquote, of touching people's heads and deciding what their personality is like. And so the person who invented the light bulb, yeah, it's that's what it is. The person who invented the light bulb, Thomas Edison, thought this was real. So my question to you is, what have you invented? And what qualifies you to tell Thomas Edison that he's stupid? So this is the reality of being crazy, right? Brilliant people can be crazy. You don't have to be stupid to be crazy. Are there crazy people who are also stupid? Of course. And is it like a prerequisite for you to be crazy to be a genius? Of course not. No. Anyone can be crazy. But that's the point, is that anyone can be crazy. And there may even be varying levels of craziness. Like a person may be very fanatic about a particular subject, and that's it. And about every other subject that may be completely normal and lead completely normal lives. But this one particular subject, they just happen to think fluoride is, out to get them. And it affects their life in very real ways. And when these people get a lot of money, they can become a bit dangerous because they start inventing fake sciences. And so it's interesting. And phrenology was used to condemn people and categorize them as, say, being violent. Like, oftentimes with black people, they would say that, oh, the skull is a certain way, and therefore that means that this person is more prone to violence. But really what they were doing was just putting a scientific label on their racism. And so they had a bunch of racists around them, and so the other racists would say, well, yes, that sounds like science. And so there's your quote unquote peer review, in a sense, right? Except it's not a true peer review. It's just it's you and a bunch of idiots being idiots together and then passing it off as science. And so this was rampant in early America. And so why am I bringing this up? Well, you're starting to see this kind of nuttiness again. And I'll get more specific with how as we read on. So the touching the people's heads thing, we got that done. Let's see if you've heard this one before. Spiritualism. You hear that a lot these days, don't you? People talking about being spiritual. Well, I'm a spiritual person. What the fuck does that mean, number one? What does that mean? Because I'd guarantee you most people who say it, they don't know where the word came from. And I'm telling you where it came from right now. And this is why there are some people who, when you say that, they look at you like you're crazy. Because there were people who were alive at the time when spiritualism was a thing. And they were nuts. They were these nutty people. Anyway, I'll get into it. Communication with the dead through a psychic medium also captured the imagination of the educated and the unwashed alike. William Lloyd Garrison, Horace Greeley, and James Fenimore Cooper were among thousands of antebellum Americans who frequented seances to witness table rapping and oozing ectoplasm. Mesmerism, electric medicine, creationism, and the water cure all join them in the stew of popular beliefs. So I'll go through those one at a time. Any given day in the United States of America, when you turn on the television and it's a certain time of day, I'd say anywhere from maybe around like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, all the way up until, I don't know, like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, maybe 8, when the real networks start to take over. You'll see all kinds of psychic readings on the air. And I know this because I used to stay up late all the time. And so, there's nothing on after a while. And when you have insomnia, you just kind of, leaving the TV on to pretend. I don't know. It's weird. But there would always be these psychics and these mediums. And then when you get into daytime television, there's psychics and mediums all throughout. And so you start to ask yourself, are there people who believe this? Yes. It's not just performance art. This is a very real thing that people believe in the United States. You have to remember, people like Miss Cleo, Sylvia Brown, they made millions of dollars. And they had so many followers. The people who bought their books, they were very popular. And they were con artists. They were making shit up. And you had all kinds of celebrities who went to these people, right? Just like what you're hearing here. It's the same thing. There's not a difference between the COVID denialism and believing that you can communicate with the dead, which many people believe. And don't think that prayer is that different, because you're praying to a dead guy, right? So you're already primed to believe in nonsense. Because think about it, you're praying to a man who walked the earth, he died, and now he's dead. And yeah, you can put a prerequisite on that, but essentially that's the story. So you're already primed to believe in mediums and psychics. And of course not everyone will do it, because in the Bible, right, it says that that's the devil, that's of the devil. But if you don't believe in Satan, and you don't believe in hell, which more and more Christians don't, which is right, by the way, because the Dante depiction of hell is not hell. The hell is just dying. So it's fine. But once okay, now psychics and mediums aren't really a threat. Right? And so you just fall into that. And so, I mean, that's what I'm saying, is that if you're already primed culturally to believe nonsense, then you'll believe any nonsense. It doesn't matter what your IQ level is. It doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how good your teacher was. You are already primed to believe in nonsense. Mesmerism, of course, is hypnotism. It's the same thing. So we still see that, right? We still see these stupid hypnotist shows. They're still on the air. People still believe in hypnotism. People believe you can be hypnotized, even though it's been proven that you can't. And really, it's cartoonish, because it's like, that Med Talk the Mind Taker or something, like, boo, like, you can't. I'll tell you how you disprove hypnotism outright, and mesmerism and all this nonsense, because originally it was developed as a medical treatment. By the way, it thought if we could trick you into thinking you were well, then you would be well. This is how stupid people are. But they're desperate, so they'll try anything. And so if you want to disprove hypnotism, find a woman or man or whatever, person that you find very particularly attractive, and say, okay, I want you to come over to my place and we'll try it out. Try to get that person to take their clothes off. It won't work. Try to get that person to kill someone. You couldn't do it. Do you know what always happens with hypnotism? People will do anything you tell them to do as long as it does not go outside of their boundaries, their personal space. So yes, of course, the average person, if you ask them to get up and grab a glass of water, they're going to get up and grab the glass of water, right? Why wouldn't they? There's no reason for them not to do that when you tell them to do it. And you think about it. You primed them, you opened them up to you, right? By saying to them nice things, say, hi, welcome, relax, this is a calm space, there's calm music playing in the background. You've already done the church thing. The person's already primed for you to come in and make them feel good. And so when they give you that command, you already trust them already anyway. Now, where it stops, and where it's always stopped when they actually tested it in a study, is as soon as they start to ask the person to do sexual things. So, okay, we'll go over there and touch Jim. No. All of a sudden, they're not hypnotized anymore. You know what that means? That means they were never hypnotized. And yet people still believe in mesmerism. They still believe in hypnotism. Not for lack of knowledge, though. And this is the mistake. So maybe, I don't know, maybe the fear thing you're talking about. But creationism is still alive and well. Creationism, I would say, is back and better than ever. So this is one of the crackpot theories, right? This idea that the Earth is 6,000 years old, and that yeah, that's creationism.
I've never known anyone who thought that before.
Well, there's young Earth creationism, and then there's old Earth creationism. So there's branches of it, and that's the thing, is there's always sects. So like not every creationist necessarily believes the Earth is 6,000 years old. However, an increasing number of them do, and an alarming number already do.
That's crazy.
And then also a literal flood. A literal Noah's Ark where there were literal animals on there and all that stuff. Even though that's also been shown not to have happened. Just, physically, the mass that you would need for that arc and for one person to have done it, is completely ridiculous. Because if you actually look at the scale of what the ark would have needed to be, it's this huge, humongous structure. There's no way some drunk could have done it. Yeah, and then, the Adam and Eve tale, which to me, it's pure metaphor. I don't see... Yeah. I don't see how you can't see it's a metaphor. It's a talking snake. There's a talking snake. And so even if you're not a young Earth creationist, there's still a level of just batshit craziness there.
Right.
Because you believe that a literal snake talked to a woman, and that that women literally came from men. And this is why so many men hate women, is because they think, you belong to me. You were made for me. I am God in a sense, because God is man, right? And so this is where you get patriarchy and all this stuff. And so creationism is very dangerous, and it eventually ends up in biblical literalism, which is just extremism. That's all it is. Fundamentalism, or whatever you want to call it. But it's dangerous, and you saw it at the Capitol riots when they were acting a fool. I guarantee you, 98% of those people are, red blood Christian American. There's nothing but white people in there, and most people in this country are Christian. That's especially Trump's base is overwhelmingly Christian. So that's what you see there.
True.
The water cure. Yeah, there was this obsession, and it's funny because you've mentioned this before, Melissa, and a lot of celebrities who happen to be Christian, they're obsessed with water. And I'm not saying that you're obsessed with water. I'm saying you've mentioned other people that you've noticed being obsessed with water.
This is a frequent phrase, water is life.
Yeah, that seems to come up with Christians in particular. Yeah, I don't know about other religions. As I was saying earlier, I don't look into them as much. I know a little bit about Islam. Not enough, I would say, to make a completely informed opinion. It's one of the reasons I don't talk about Islam very much. But I grew up in America. I know everything there is to know about Western Christianity. I also went to college, and we studied a lot of religion in college. So I have a good deal to say about it. And if you look at a lot of early Christian medicine, they had this fantasy that if you doused people with water, that you could wash away sin. And if you read their books, that's what they said they were doing. James Kellogg, for example, who's the guy who invented cornflakes, would douse people in water, drench them in water, and then he allowed them, if they had to go to the bathroom, they could go out, but they had to get right back in the water. And so, again, you see this obsession with water. It almost appears as like it's like the sin is like the dirt and the water is like the holiness, the baptism. That seems to be what it is to me. It's this obsession.
Because baptisms are very important.
Well, yeah, it's the rebirth.
Yeah.
And Christians are very obsessed with that narrative. So, yeah, I totally think that's what it is. All right. So moving on in the article. Why was 19th century America so welcoming to these beliefs? A combination of historical circumstances provided both motivation and opportunity for pseudoscience to flourish. In the 18th century, people were convinced that if you examined the book of nature, it would lead you to God, says Philip Kitcher, professor of philosophy at Columbia and author of Abusing Science, The Case Against Creationism. Most believed science and the scriptures to be harmonious. The scientific developments that destroyed that harmony, the explosion of geological time, Darwin's Origin of Species, came as a terrible blow. The universe no longer looked at all providential, Kitcher says. By the middle of the 19th century, you could only hold on to the literal truth of Genesis if you were prepared to engage in pseudoscientific maneuvering. So, you see what happened there? They held the belief. So you have to remember the early scientists are all mostly Christian in the West anyway, right? Now, obviously that's not 100% true, but overwhelming majority. And so what you have initially in science is a bunch of people looking to prove God. And then what happens is that Darwin discovers evolution. And there's nothing about evolution in any holy text. You can look for it all you want, and you can try to pretend that it's there all you like. But it's not. You would have to go do all kinds of weird metaphor, interpretation, gymnastics to put it in there. And so this deals a huge blow, and this is why creationists in particular hate evolution, and they're constantly trying to disprove evolution. Right? Because if they disprove evolution, then there's a chance that their book is correct. So, with the creation of evolution, the only way now to outscience the scientists is to do just that. You can't come lead in with the Bible anymore, right? You have to create your own pseudoscience to combat what's going on. And so essentially that's what they're saying there. And this is what Christian apologists do. They go around making up nonsense that sounds like science. Like, for example, you get a hit of dopamine every time you touch yourself, and you get a hit of dopamine every time you, smoke weed, and therefore they're both addictive. Even though there's not really any proof that either are addictive. They haven't proven either, and they really, really haven't proven the sex one. Like, maybe you can make a weak argument for drugs being addictive, maybe. But there's really no argument whatsoever for touching your pee-pee or your hoo-hoo being bad in any way. And yet, still to this day, they're trying to argue scientifically to prove to you that it's bad because it's in their book. And so they're creating science to legitimize the Bible, to impress you, to impress scientific-minded people, right? And so this still goes on today with things like COVID, where you can go online and see some guy in a lab coat talking about this thing is a scam and no one's dying and there's all kinds of government conspiracies with the pedophiles and the rapists and whatever, they say. And, the people who made vaccines are Chinese, communist, atheist, whatever you don't like. Immigrants. What else what's some other stuff that Americans don't like? Let's just throw it all in, right? Americans aren't very fond of French food. So French, put that in there. French people.
Yeah, they don't like the French, they don't like the Canadian.
Oh, yeah, it's a Canadian-Chinese communist plot. That's perfect, right? That's like the triple bacon cheeseburger of American conspiracy theories. Canada, China, and, I don't know, vaccines or... the point is that, yes, it's stupid if you're not in a community of stupid people. You're not in a community of people that are they're working together to be ignorant. They want to be ignorant together. So this is where you get cliques and cults and celebrity followings and churches. Because it's like they already know the stuff that's the thing, is you can shout, it's a real disease all you want. It's been 10 months and I think I've proven my point that it's not really going to matter to certain people. And that's the reality. And it's because they're in these ignorant little cliques, and that's when the government should step in and say, all right, enough. So hopefully we'll see that. I'll finish the rest of the article here. How you doing there, Care Bear?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Good. Let's see what this article has to say.
Continuing in the article. Many pseudoscientific disciplines were inspired by this desire to defend the harmony of science and religion. While creationists began a battle with Darwinian evolution that continues to this day, the zetetic astronomers of the late 19th century went even further. Inspired by a literal reading of the Bible, they insisted the earth was not a sphere but a flat disk, with heaven above and hell below. Dozens of zetetic societies sprang up in the 1880s and 90s, sponsoring scientific investigations designed to spread the flat earth gospel. Reverend Wilbur Volivia, or whatever, he sounds crazy, a leading American flat earther, railed at so-called fundamentalists. Listen to this. Do you hear that? So-called fundamentalists. That's insulting. So you're not fundamental enough. Just when you thought it couldn't get any batshit crazier, it does. And that's my point, is that you think it can't get any crazier. But then there's some guy who's like, I can out-crazy you, motherfucker. I got a crazier book than you do. I'm even crazier than you. That's seriously what happened. And this is happening again today with the conspiracy theories. It's the same thing. It's just minus the religion. There's not so much religion, even though it's still undertones of Christianity. But I can talk about that in a later episode. Who would strain out the gnat of evolution, yet swallow the camel of modern astronomy. So they're saying that, yeah, you're going after those stupid Darwin guys, but that's the easy work. I'm doing the real work. I'm going after the round earth people. Take that, Galileo. Yeah, and they're like proud of it. And these are like these are like celebrities of their time. That's the thing, is that these people were well known. They were taken seriously by many people. So my point is that it doesn't matter if they're experts. Remember Dr. Drew? He was out there at the beginning talking about, fuck COVID. Let's go have a party. And he got sick.
And definitely downplayed it.
He didn't only downplay it. He said that you're panicking. You're being ridiculous. He basically said, stop being ridiculous. He was the one who was being ridiculous. So you see what happens is that people project. And if they have enough money or they have a following, they can surround themselves with people who will confirm their nonsense. And then they get sick or get hurt, or sometimes they get lucky and live, which, shows even more that life has no, real like design, because like if there was a just moral God, he would just kill those people and just, these people are idiots, just kill them. And then that would be the end of it. But sometimes these idiots survive and they they kill a bunch of other people, right? Yeah. Like Trump. Trump's alive. Hey, he's like, that's the benefits of modern science. I mean, you think about it, in a capitalist society, only the rich people get to live. And just the people who need to work for them. I mean, it's sad, but it's true. Anyway, in his hometown of Zion, yes, that is a real place. And listen, you live in a nation that names places after biblical nonsense, places that didn't even exist in real life. Zion is another term for God. He already thinks he's God. He came from God, Illinois. Anyway, Zion, Illinois. Vol-Eva passed some of the strictest blue laws in the country, outlawing cigarettes, short pants, whistling on Sundays. That's right. It's illegal to whistle on Sundays, folks. Don't you dare. I'll come to your house and lynch you.
Wow.
No whistling on Sundays, young man. Smack. See how crazy Christianity can make you? Religion in general can make you. Oh, and naturally, globes. They outlawed globes. Remember when they used to burn books?
Like those round globes.
They made globes, yeah, the earth, because they said, no, it's a flat earth.
It's flat, and that's a round ball.
No globes. It was illegal. And if you got caught with one, you get, like, fined or something. This is how stupid these people are. But you see it happening again. Because now there are places where if you wear a mask, they'll beat you up. If you're like walking around with a mask, say, you pussy, and they'll start beating the shit out of you. It's the same thing as laws. In fact, it's worse. It's way worse. At least these people had the civility to go through the courts. Nowadays, they'll just smack you around if they see you wearing a mask. If you go to certain parts of town or certain establishments where they don't like that. So my point is, it's the same thing. Like, what's the difference, right?
Good article.
It is a good article. I thought it was very good. I found it right before we did this. I wasn't planning on talking about this today, but I rarely plan on talking about things. All right. So I'll finish here. Even seemingly secular areas of study try to collapse distinctions between the realms of science and religion. What was spiritualism if not a way to apprehend spiritual reality with the material tools? Friendly relations with the next world would promote prosperity and rapid scientific advancement, promised Andrew Jackson Davis, the Poughkeepsie seer. A devotee of electric medicine named Frederick Augustus Baker proclaimed that giant electromagnets, properly placed, might eliminate malicious energies from the center of the earth that caused all human sin.
Wow.
Even the secular people were nuts. Even the people who were talking about being reasonable and logical and I don't need that. I don't read the Bible. I just believe. Even they had succumbed to nonsense. This is my point. Is that you think you're smarter than these people? These people, you should see the suits. Look at the suits these people are wearing. These are fancy business people. You've never lived with people like this before. You've never spoken to people like this before. These are high-ranking doctors. They would never associate with people like you. You know what they'd do? They'd sit around and talk shit about people like you and about how dumb you are. Isn't that something? And just like we're sitting here right now talking about how dumb they are, they would have done the same thing. That's my point. You're not living in a more advanced time. It's the same thing. There's just different nonsense. And in fact, if you look at the, what was it, the Zetetic Society, Zetetic, whatever, I don't know, Zetetic Society, that's flat Earth. That's flat Earth. There's a flat Earth society today. It's the same fucking thing. There's no difference. They literally took the same shit and they put it, and then look at this guy talking about spiritualism. Same. People talk about being spiritual all the time. What's the difference?
Crystals and all that.
Crystals, energy. Yes. There's this sin from the earth and all this nonsense. All of it.
Auras and chakras and all that.
People have similar fantasies, folks. And if you have a similar, and you don't believe that, don't many people like Star Wars? Don't a lot of people like Batman? Don't a lot of people just love Greek gods and reading about? Don't people love Shakespeare? They devote their whole lives to Shakespeare, right? And you think about it, and you're like, I don't understand. Why would they devote their lives to Shakespeare? It makes no sense. Let me go home and read the Bible that Shakespeare wrote. Right? Starting to make sense, maybe? Because Shakespeare wrote the King James Bible. He wrote a lot of versions in it. That's why it's called the King James Bible. So, and my point is I'm not demonizing, and, you know, obviously he didn't write the Bible. He translated it and put it into verse, because obviously the original Hebrew is not in that verse. So, this is, what I'm saying is that this is not a special time. It's not all that unfamiliar. And there's always been con artists, and a lot of times, you know what, the con artists, they don't even know that they're con artists. They think it's real. That's what's even scarier about it. You call them con men, you're assuming a lot. You're assuming they're smart. I don't see a lot of smart here. While not strictly biblical, these disciplines offered the same reassuring message. Advances in science need not destroy the providential universe of years gone by. While religion provided a motive, the structure of American science created the opportunity for unorthodox beliefs to thrive. Antebellum science was egalitarian. It had to be outside a small group of internationally respected men. Science in America depended on a much larger circle of amateurs, dabblers, and mechanics. It was not difficult for phrenologists or mesmerists to claim legitimacy in this disorganized milieu. The book of nature, they insisted, was open to all. If orthodox scientists called them quacks or cranks, they were quick to appeal to the democratic sensibilities of the republic. Let the people judge the truth, they said, not the elite few. Sound familiar? Don't listen to the elite. They're out to get you. They always demonize the scientists. And it's like I said, not necessarily to make money. It's because if you demonize the scientists, you win. And it's about winning. People want their fairy tale to be true. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to have the science and the religion both, but they want the science to prove their particular story of the religion. And so that's why you have all these quack sciences. And that's why you see them in history. So, as I've demonstrated, it's not unusual at all. And get used to it. Because, just like they said, this disorganized milieu of amateurs and dabblers, that's your Alex Jones, that's your Alan Watt, that's your Steven Crowder, it's your Joe Rogan, it's your, these people who are selling things on TV, it's your preachers, all of that. These amateur people who, they're always appealing to, well, it's a democracy. I should be able to sell you whatever I want, whatever snake oil I want. And you should know. You should know that it's fake. Yeah, well, that benefits them way more than it does you. You have anything you want to add before I sign off?
No.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to more Content Talk. I had a lot of fun sharing that article with you tonight. It was very interesting. Thank you, McDougall, for that article.
Always fun being here.
Oh, yeah. Always fun having you here. Hey, check us out on Instagram. Check us out on Twitter, more_content PLS. You can sponsor us on Anchor if you so choose, but if not, just please listen to our episodes. Anytime you do that or share them with your friends, that's great. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Bye.